Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and here we go with the patch notes for the April Fool's mid-month Squirrel Girl Farmer Thanos update. It's going to be landing tonight at 8 p.m. Pacific, as you can see here, which is 11 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be a different time for you based on your time zones. You just have to do the math there. I will be live at 11 p.m. when this goes up. It's usually up a little bit earlier, so it might be like 10:30 p.m. I'll be live on YouTube, on here, to check out the two new uniforms, play around with them, maybe see if we, can get a tier 3 for Squirrel Girl going or whatever. But yeah, it should be pretty interesting. It's pretty bare bones, to be honest with you. It's just Thanos and Squirrel Girl. No other content is being added. We're gonna hope to see that in the anniversary. But for the time being, let's check out the uniforms, and then we'll talk about the acquisition and all that sort of stuff here. So Thanos is staying a supervillain despite being the wise harvester. Thanos, it's a base 2,500 crystals with no discount, so there's no 40% or whatever. As far as his uniform effects and the rest of the effects of his kit, they do seem to be pretty similar to what he had before, with improvements. So he's got 5% additional pierce, he's still got the damage reduction, he's got that fat heal like Deadpool has when he gets below 30%. His tier 3 skill seems to have been changed with this uniform, Endless Void, so that's pretty nice. Hopefully it hits a lot harder. His leadership is probably the biggest change that people notice. Just a flat 50-40 attack and defense to villain allies, which is huge because it's not based on getting debuffed or anything like that, but it also gives you the debuff removal. So very, very good leadership for both PvE and PvP. And then his passive gives him damage to heroes and a heal. He gets skill damage, bonus damage. He still retains that damage increase to enemies who have debuff removal effect, which means he'll still be able to deal high amounts of damage in PvP. And then he has every single ABX and ABL ability, like a lot of us were suspecting. So he has Snare on his second skill called Pest Control. By the way, these skills are hilarious. Titan Agriculture, Pest Control, Harvest Day, Soil Till, and Scarecrow of Enlightenment. But anyways, moving back to that. Snare on the second skill. And then he's got Shock and Fracture and Paralysis on his fourth skill. That is nuts. That's 2 ABL abilities and 1 ABX ability rolled into one. So keep in mind that even if you're not going to tier 4 Thanos, he may be a really good striker if he for other tier 4s if he uses this skill as a tier 4 striker, because that means he'll be able to apply Shock, Fracture, or Paralysis for you to sort of fill in the gaps on any characters you have at tier 4 or whatever that you're using. Well, it has to be tier 4 that you're using for ABX or ABL that don't have the abilities. And then he has Burn and Silence on his 5th skill. So yeah, Burn, Silence, and Paralysis for the ABX days, and then Shock, Fracture, Snare for the ABL days. Absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. Very few characters. I don't know that there are many characters. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm sure there are a couple. But very few have all 6 effects. He might be the only one. So that is a massive, massive upgrade. He also has Ignore Iframe on his 4th skill, so he won't be useless for PvP. And he also has Accumulation now on his 5th skill. So Thanos gets the big boy treatment. Very, very strong stuff. Squirrel Girl looks like something out of your nightmares. You definitely don't want to put your nuts anywhere near her. She's going to be available for 30 of the delightful tokens, just like we expected. April Fool's Day tokens, whatever you want to, holiday tokens, the seasonal uniform tokens. And this uniform seems to be obviously a big shift for her. She hasn't had a uniform since like 2017 or 2016. So this is a massive bump for her. The one thing that I think a lot of people are going to be upset about is that her uniform effect does apply a buff to Thanos, which is interesting. It sort of makes sense thematically because she's called the Nutty Titan and she's literally wearing his obsidian armor, but people were hoping to see her also have these buffs for herself. I think sort of buffs that only apply to one other character and not to yourself, they feel really bad, right? Because then if Squirrel Girl is not strong, then people are going to be looking at this passive and saying, like, if it just says Thanos and self, then it sort of fixes that. But anyways, she gives Thanos a 60% increased damage dealt to boss types. That's pretty strong. Like that's a very strong passive effect, and it's also on the passive of the uniform, which means you don't have to put Squirrel Girl as the leader, whereas for Deadpool and Gwenpool you do have to use Deadpool as a leader. Now, there's not that many stages to use Squirrel Girl and Thanos together. In ABL and ABX, there's basically no stages that they can be put together in unless there was a generic villain stage, but there isn't. For World Boss Legend, you can only put them together on stages where the only type, or the only sort of restriction is supervillain. You can put them together, or if the only restriction is Power Cosmic, or if the only restriction is Pure Evil. Those are the only three things that they share in common: the Power Cosmic and Pure Evil abilities, and the supervillain tag. Currently, we have a few supervillain stages for sure, but they're not difficult at the time. They're pretty low on the rung of difficulty, so we don't really need this combo for that. We do have a Pure Evil combo tag, or sort of ability tag on Ultron, I believe 55 to 59. Currently, you can get through it with Carnage. So again, not really needed, but something to keep in mind. But she also gets to herself on her uniform effect. It's not just for Thanos. She gets damage reduction, and she also gets that crazy heal, which is pretty interesting because I don't think she needs it. I don't think she's going to be PvP friendly. No reflect, no iframe ignore, no counterattack, etc. Okay, anyways, her Squirrel Swarm Tier 3 skill, which looks amazing, by the way. It has more hits on this new uniform, so it's by default just stronger with this uniform, but no surprise there. Her passive gives her physical attack. It keeps the increased damage dealt to universal types, which is very good. It's very thematic. And then gives her skill damage, bonus damage, and then she also gains chain hit damage and guaranteed dodge. So some pretty decent passives here for her. She also has some ABX, ABL abilities. She has burn and paralysis and silence, so she has all three of the ABX abilities. She doesn't have any of the ABL abilities, actually, now that I take a look, but it is something to consider. She has a heal now, she has a frenzy buff, and she has an accumulation buff. So lots of buffs, very meta stuff for Squirrel Girl. We'll have to wait and see just how strong they make her, but her tier 3 looks fairly straightforward as far as the buffs go. But you can see here from the animation, it's pretty cute. A bunch of nuts, a bunch of acorns rain down on you at the end of the skill, which I kind of like. And there's a bunch of squirrels like an army that go ahead and jump on the enemy and attack them. So literally a squirrel swarm. So I like the tier 3 ability. I also like Thanos' tier 4 ability. Thanos' tier 4 decreases enemies' basic attack by 50%, which is interesting. I don't know where that's going to apply, but we'll see if it applies in any sort of PvE content. But what's more interesting is it increases his basic damage by 20%, which can stack up to 60%, which I kind of like stacking. It gives him 30% chain hit for 8 seconds. And then the icing on the cake is it has damage. It deals damage, and we see the fabled 4-digit damage percentage. We've only seen this once before, ladies and gentlemen, on Blue Dragon's tier 4 skill. Blue Dragon's tier 4 skill has the exact same 1000%. And let me remind you, Blue Dragon's tier 4 hits really fucking hard. And Blue Dragon has insane DPS. So this might be a clue that Thanos is going to have absolutely nutty, get it? Absolutely nutty DPS. So I'm very excited to check that out. It's also really cool that it's energy damage, even though he scales off physical attack, because it makes him less susceptible to like singular types of reflect, right? So I mean, he could still die to physical reflect or energy reflect, but having that mixture of damage makes him a little bit more flexible and a little bit less, less one-dimensional, right? Like you can just counter him with Luke Cage, or just counter him with Destroyer, or whatever, what have you. New artifact for Squirrel Girl, very straightforward: ignore dodge and increase damage to boss types. It's a good artifact. The percentages are low, but it is what it is. And then that's it. That's the update. So that's all we're getting as far as the update is concerned. There are other things. There's a bunch of events, there's logins, stuff like that. But yeah, that's it for this mid-month update. As far as the, if we take a look here at the announcements for the update, so we have the uniform for Thanos, which is going to cost 2,500, and the uniform for Squirrel Girl, which is 30 tokens. You can also get Gwenpool's April Fool's uniform from last year for 30 tokens, and you can also use 1750 crystals to get Deadpool's. I don't recommend either of these, but I can make a follow-up video showing you guys why. There's also going to be a 40% discount for all uniforms. Don't get baited into buying uniforms at this point if you are a low spender, free-to-play hoarder, etc., because the 50% discount is coming at the end of the month. At the end of the month, we're going to get the 50% discount with the next update. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. We have an energy bonus mission, hero growth mission, character ranking, whatever, blah, 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 artifact. And then we have the 7-day login. I always point out the 7-day login for these seasonal events because I want to remind you guys that you get 10 tokens on the 7th day. So for those of you that are not going to FOMO in and buy Squirrel Girl right away, For those of you who want to spend less money, but you still want to get Squirrel Girl, you wait 7 days, you get the 10 free tokens, and then you have to additionally spend more money because 10 tokens is not enough. You need 30. So you can either purchase Squirrel Girl's Play Chest 2, you can purchase that twice, so that costs you $20 US, or you can purchase this one 7 times, which costs you a little bit more. But you get, I think you get a few more chests. Yeah, I think you get 14 chests instead of 12 chests. So yeah, it's really up to you whether you want to press the button 7 times, you want to press the button twice. But those are the most efficient ways. There are other ways to get 20 tokens or 30 tokens. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to go through the ones that are the most efficient. If you have any other things you want to purchase, go knock yourself out. Just be wary about the uniforms because of the 50% off coming very soon. That's about it. There's definitely other stuff, okay? Like, just to be clear here, there's definitely other stuff that's been announced already, like the 8-year homecoming. Like, there's a homecoming login. I'll cover this in a separate video today. I don't want to pack it into this video and people be confused or whatever. So just know that I'm not ignoring that stuff. I'm just going to talk about it in a separate video because it's not technically related to the... Well, it's related to the patch notes, but not. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of Thanos and Squirrel Girl. I'll see you guys tonight for the live stream. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys a little bit later for the 8-year anniversary countdown calendar. Smash the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.